And welcome back to Trip to the Mound. Again, we are the iBaseballChannel podcast. So the iBaseballChannel van was active this weekend. We were going up and down the state. You know, we made our trip up to Campbell to see our own Mr. Ed the night before on Friday night. And of course,
Mr. Ed provided the audio and video for us that
yes, he did.
The evening, the Giants A's game.
And then of course the next day we were going up to Oakland to the OCO Coliseum, which I believe is now what it's called, and we were getting ready to meet a group of the Gamer Babes who were there as part of a fundraiser. They're helping raise money for a young girl and her summer softball expenses. She's playing on a travel team, so it was nice to meet all the Gamer Babes and get
And they're involved in the Brian Stowe Foundation too, as well, because they have a number of other events planned for the year. So every time they buy tickets, I think $1, $2, or $3 they donate to some cause. So.
And we did get to see Stomper come over.
Stomper came out in the rain and put on a pretty good show.
Yeah,
I almost got in trouble though.
I was just about to bring this up.
Now, Roy, I got to tell you, he patted me on the back, but he patted me on the back kind of firm. I thought he was like, "Hey, come on, pal," I was like, and I turned around. I was playing around with him, like, "Yeah, come on there," and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, the security's coming down on me, and they're like, "Bring in the." You can't do that.
I have it on video. Man. I have it on the GoPro because, again, it was raining, so I wasn't able to bring out the big cameras. But
he smacked me on the back pretty hard, and I didn't know he was even coming. He's like, whack. Like, okay, really? Whack.
And as you examine the replay, you can see you getting into a little bit of the fighting stance. You did.
Yeah, but obviously I wasn't going to get it.
And but what was funny, again, as you're watching the replay of this, is that Stomper then brings their person over and kind of whispers something in the ear, and then they
guy's got the thing in the ear.
Yeah, and then and then they come in, and then they said, please don't hit Stomper, and I could see I could see your body language just said, okay, whatever, and kind of moved on from it, but. It was,
photo time.
Yes, yeah.
The Bob Silva or the Silva Ford van out there, and we were wet too.
Oh yeah, because really after Stomper left, then the rain just went to another level, and that was it was too bad because this really was a loyal group of Giants fans. I mean, they were out there waiting until the last possible minute to see if there was any way that this was going to happen, and then almost to the T, as soon as Stomper left, just got crazy. It just started pouring and pouring and pouring, and at that point, you said it. You could tell that it just wasn't going to happen as far as that goes.
Yep. And then the boss's backup plan came into effect. We reassembled at the airport Hilton's sports bar and grill or whatever it is there. And about 100 people showed up, and we had a pretty good time in there. And
so
made some fans happy, and we took some photos and.
You got to pass some wisdom along to a young pitcher and all that good stuff. But again, what's interesting is that night before when we were at Mr. Ed's house, we did get to watch a little bit of the Giants and A's playing that night, and there was some stuff that you were very critical of, some stuff that was going on from the mound, and it was stuff that wasn't being talked about on the broadcast, and it was stuff that wasn't being talked about after the fact either, because on paper, Tim Lincecum had. It was like 5 1/3 innings. I think he only gave up 1 run. This was right before he took the liner to the back of the leg. But all the while, you were mechanically dissecting it, and you were seeing some things that made you draw a red flag.
I hope this is what separates us from the crowd, Roy. And I can tell you, it's not when you watch a guy like him, and of course I'm looking at him the whole career. You've seen what's happened. You can see what happens year to year. And then you look at what I'm looking at the other night, and what I'm seeing is obviously a guy in decline. And he was, as I told you, he was just a pitch away or one hit away from a disaster out there. And he was fortunate that he did make a couple of good pitches. He is going to have to stay down, and then his off-speed stuff is going to be way down bad. He's going to have to get guys to chase, which that ended up helping him. I can't remember who it was on the A's, but he got somebody to chase bad down, and that was the turning point. Otherwise, he'd have been in a lot of trouble.
Is it the loss of velocity that you see that gives you a red flag?
It's the velocity too, but it's the whole life and the stuff that in the movement to it. It's just it just does not have the life and the velocity that it had.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to figure it out, and he's going to have to pitch, which he's trying, but his style is not he was approaching 80 pitches and didn't get out of the, he was close, like I said, just one hit or two away, and he was going to throw 100 pitches in 5 innings.
Yeah.
And I think we heard the other day where he's third overall in the major leagues over the last, I don't know how many years, 7 or 8 years. He's thrown over 17,000 pitches.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and
It's
again,
taking a toll on this guy. He's a small guy, and he does not have good pitching mechanics, as we've talked a few times. But
yeah, well, you've mentioned.
I really haven't dissected him to get it out there. I've mentioned some stuff on our Facebook with our fans and stuff because we have Giants fans and they want to know about Timmy, and I tell them. But
well, let's talk a little bit about it. What is it about the style of how he throws that you say could lead to a little disaster down the road?
Well, it'd help if I had my photos and show you the plus and minus, but he starts with a head tilt, number one.
Yeah.
And when you do that at release point, which is a real critical part of your delivery, his body has already rotated and kind of going towards first base.
Uh-huh.
And so he can't get his head out over his front knee. When you see guys like Cliff Lee and some of the other guys that at times in the past throwing 90, 91 miles an hour, they can throw the ball by people, and it's because they're able to put their head out over their front knee and their release point is way out here. He is really violent with this head tilt. He's across his body. Mm-hmm. He's on that. Another thing, he's on that side of the rubber. He might at some point in time want to think about getting on that side, and just to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he can't get out over his front knee, and that's a problem. So in the pitching, like old style terminology, we would just say he kind of cuts his pitches off. You know what I mean? Like can't really get extended out there and get through the baseball and have that happen a little bit closer to home plate.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. You get that, Cracker?
Yeah. So, I mean, does that have to do with him being shorter? I mean, is that
No,
something?
he's pitched like this all his whole life.
Yeah.
His dad taught him to pitch, and they have photos and videotape of him pitching at 14. He looks exactly the same. So this is a big decision that clubs have to make when you sign a guy like that. They're aware of this.
Yeah.
The big question is, are you going to try to change him?
Yeah.
Because if you change him, you can hurt somebody, and then you got a bullseye on your back.
Yeah.
It just ruined our number one pick. We just spent $5 million on.
Gotcha.
Lot of pressure.
Yeah. Which again is a little bit of the gamble that the Giants had to make this past season in determining, do they keep him to add him to the rotation?
That's why you didn't see him get that big long thing, because they know that at any moment he can start going downhill real fast.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but he's got his work cut out for him.
Well, and I think, and maybe you can shed a little light on this, because one of the other things that I noticed that the A's hitters were doing was they were making him pitch deep into almost every count.
They know that. And so what's going to happen is, if it gets to the point where he's not able to handle guys with his stuff, and he's going to try to force them to go out of the strike zone, they'll do the opposite. They'll take and force him to throw strikes. And when he has to get his stuff that's not as good into the strike zone, and they're looking for it, then they're going to hit him.
Yeah. And the antithesis that night was Jesse Chavez, the A's starter, who seemed, I don't know what the percentage was, but it was almost every batter was a first pitch strike.
They can't take that approach off him, because if they do, they're going to be hitting 0-2 all night long, and the hitters don't want that. They know this guy's a strike thrower, so now they have to be more aggressive. They got to start looking for pitches, and because he's a strike thrower.
Yeah.
So they can't just sit back and take. You'll be hitting 0-2 every time.
Yeah, because I know that.
But Tim Lincecum does not. He's not known to be a strike thrower. He just throws so many pitches at you that eventually he strikes you out.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, because again, I know you've heard this many a times on Little League fields throughout the years. Get that first pitch strike over, and what you're saying in this whole discussion is that could be the difference of adding, say, 30 more pitches onto your pitch count over the course of 5 or 6 innings, depending on how you as a pitcher go about this.
He will have to really bear down on that. He's going to really have to try to throw strike one. And because if he doesn't, he's, like I said, it could be a long year for him.